Hello, everybody out there. We're coming to you live from Anaheim, California at RE Plus 2024. I'm Nick Pack, and we're here at the Connect booth with K2 Systems, and we have a special guest today, a very special guest. We have Dale Rolph from Dale's Renewable World. Welcome, Dale. How are you?
Hi,
It's
I'm
great to
great,
see you.
Nick. It's nice to see you and nice to meet you. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you and K2.
Excellent, excellent. So you're actually here locally here in Southern California.
Yes, I am. I live in Temecula, California, specifically. Recently moved there from Murrieta, California, which is the neighboring city of Temecula.
Absolutely. So native Southern California most of your days, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I went to high school and college out in Palm Springs.
Excellent, excellent. So I believe this is the 20th year of RE Plus. So how many of these conventions have you been to, Dale?
I feel like I've gone to many of them. They kind of start to really sync together, but I remember when it was called Solar Power International.
I do. I remember we used to call it SPI. That's correct. So
Yeah.
I think this is most likely my 10th one, maybe my ninth one, but it's definitely getting up there in the numbers. Well, I'm really happy that you actually took time out of your day to come out here and talk with us here at the K2 Systems booth. I wanted to kind of get a little bit more in depth about, your relationship with solar and kind of how you got started in the industry for everybody out there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised at, how extensive my background is in some various fields of other industries outside of solar.
Okay.
I got into solar from transitioning from real estate marketing. So
Wow.
I was a realtor. I had specialized in virtual marketing for many realtors. I did virtual tours and things along those lines. And I had became acquainted with an installer in the Temecula area through some friends, the same friends that I became acquainted with my wife. So, which she's, been showcased in some of the videos we post online. And from
Fantastic.
there, it's kind of just spiraled. I started off as just a site visit technician. I mean, I've literally started with no knowledge, no experience of solar or electrical,
Okay.
and have spent a lot of time on my own to learn these things and to understand the future of the sustainable world.
That's amazing. So you actually have like a very profound footprint on social media. I've watched a bunch of your videos. Whoever's watching today, they've obviously some followers on YouTube, on Instagram. I've been watching your kind of career kind of bloom in the industry. So you got started as a site surveyor, and you actually have some installation background as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, starting off as a site surveyor, I also did home visits, I did permits, I worked on installations when guys would call out.
Okay.
So I learned every aspect of a solar installation, from mounting the solar panels to the roof, doing those roof penetrations, how do you find those trusses, and all the way to carrying the glass up the roof to attach it to a device or stringing it down to a string inverter. I remember that type of technology before it evolved to what we're seeing today.
Absolutely. And, actually, if you're here attending the conference today, you'll notice that there is a very broad span of different technologies that are out there. You've lived through a lot of it. I've lived through a lot of it. I think we can come to the agreement that solar panels are only getting bigger. What's your experience with that?
They definitely are, and I feel some manufacturers are starting to take that into account. They're learning what the limitations are of a large residential format module, and that's why instead of them becoming taller, they're going wider. And I like to refer to the wider modules as fat boys, because they're just these fat boy modules to carry up on the roof. But we need to get more power out of every square inch, and the only way to do
Absolutely.
that sometimes is to make them bigger.
Yeah, that has been essentially the goal with production in solar, and our goal long term with getting solar on rooftops is kilowatt density, watts per square meter, square foot, whichever way you decide to go with it. When you started in the industry, what kind of wattage were you experiencing when you first started getting boots on the roof?
We were seeing 215 to 250 watt modules from various PPA and lease partners. That was really popular in the industry because solar was very expensive. So, I mean, that was what, a decade ago when we have that. And now modules are pushing over 400 watts in the residential space. And in some cases, we could be seeing up to 450, 500 watts by early next year.
I agree. I feel like I lived through those days too. I remember when everyone was high-fiving and getting super excited about getting an entire kilowatt out of 4 panels.
Yes.
So, and but those days are actually behind us now. We're starting to see up in the 400 watts being the kind of the medium these days.
Yeah, and the technology's evolved a lot in the solar manufacturing space. We have N-type cells, we have heterojunction cells. All this technology is allowing us to get more power and more efficiency out of every square inch of that module, a square meter of that module. And it's important because we want to capture as much of the sun as we can to harness it and keep it as efficient as we can at the same time, all the way down to the batteries, which are now being part of
Yeah.
the equipment.
I've actually seen you actually put a lot of content on social media about battery storage and ESS. We can unpack that as well. I wanted to kind of get more of your kind of mind share on what installation companies have to encounter in the field. You guys have been installing with some of your past companies primarily in Southern California, or have you installed in other states?
I haven't installed in any other states. I haven't been out to any particular other states to see the installations, but California, being one of the forward-thinking states for the renewable industry, has done a really good job at making it viable for contractors and their installers. I feel there needs to be more education in how we're installing solar, especially now that we're going back to a DC coupled architecture. But the troubles that we tend to come across is up on the roof in most cases, and it's the proper means of grounding the equipment and the means we use to attach the equipment to the roof.
Absolutely. So here in California, we obviously have a mix of everything. We have high elevations, we have the coast, the entire west coast of the state. You have beach areas, you have, snow areas, all packed into one state. So I'm sure that provides a lot of complexity and a lot of hurdles to what you guys have to execute in the field. And a bunch of different tools and equipment are needed for things like that.
Yeah, you do, and it's really good to have a good kit together. That's been a video I've been meaning to put together, is to show what kind of solar kit you should have starting off in this industry. Whether you're a site visit technician, wanting to become an installer, or wanting to become a roofer or become an electrician, a lot of the tools in this space are similar across the board. And being someone that's worked at every stage, I think it's important that you learn about what products you should be using and how you're installing them.
Absolutely. So operating an installation company, having the right tools, making sure your crew is educated, supported. Can we elaborate a little bit further into that and how that is managed and your experience in the background of that?
A lot of the times it's put on to the manufacturers to provide that proper training. I know there are other courses out there that have allowed it, other organizations, not just RE Plus being an event coordinator that brings us all together, but I know there's things like CALSA that are doing great things to help installers become more familiarized with how to properly install the equipment and keep it safe for everyone.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. So if you guys are watching live right now, make sure you visit calsa.org. Help out your local installation companies out there, making sure that they have access to funding, making sure they have access to the right building permits, and making sure that solar is still viable in our state. Let's talk about CALSA a little bit more, actually. So I know that you have some advocacy with the CALSA organization, and I've gone to the state capitol myself, met with assembly members, spoken about how solar is important to our state. I believe it's super important that we can get solar on rooftops. You're doing a lot of hard work doing it. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Well, I think what CALSA is really doing is very beneficial, but I also think that there's some misinformation, you could say, in reference to the transition from a net metering program to a net billing program. There's been a lot of negativity in the space for this transition, but it's necessary, and CALSA is doing a good job at promoting a clean, sustainable future, but we also need to think about creating a independent, sustainable future. We should be able to generate our own energy on our homes, store that energy in our homes.
Self-consumption.
Yes. I mean, that's a beautiful thing to be able to achieve, that we have created electricity 100 years ago. And who would have thought it would have changed our lives so much? And we have to buy it. It's very expensive to create, but it used to be, right? And now the technology in the renewable space is allowing us to go beyond that and store it on a residential level.
You're absolutely correct. You know, solar has been one of the most easily dispatchable and accessible sources for us to get power to the people. You can put it on rooftop. It can be done in ground mount. There's off-grid opportunities.
Carports.
Exactly. I wanted to kind of maybe not take the conversation a complete direction, but I wanted to ask you, what is the most interesting thing that you're looking forward to seeing here at RE Plus?
I mean, there was a lot of products that I've already went and viewed, and I'm really excited to see all these manufacturers coming together to create a sustainable future. There's some things that I'm really interested in seeing be put forth to make this space safer, right? We want to
Okay.
make it as safe as possible for the installers, for the contractors, for the utilities, and everybody that's partaking in this space. So I would like to see more of that advocacy in this space. I didn't see a lot of it here at RE Plus, but I do see a lot of great products, a lot of great manufacturers like K2 Systems out here doing good work and making their products domestically.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. So here at the K2 booth here at the RE Plus Convention 2024, we are debuting some of our domestic content that will be available for the U.S. market. We have our Crossrail system, which is now made in the United States. So our rail is available to all of you in U.S. content. We have it in mill finish, and of course, we're going to offer it in black anodized. So Dale had an opportunity to drive through the booth a little bit, see some of it, but in conjunction, in parallel with that lane of domestic content, I wanted to bring up a topic, and I brought you a gift, actually.
Okay.
So this is something I wanted to give to you here.
All right. I'm going to set my mic down.
Yeah, go ahead. So everybody, as the product manager here for residential systems at K2, I wanted to thank everybody who worked on our team to develop the cross clamp. We are debuting the cross clamp over our entire booth here. It is an end clamp and a mid clamp, and it is specifically designed to make your job easier on the roof, whether you're doing our rail, our railless system, our ground mounts, our standing seam railless systems. This clamp works across the entire portfolio of what K2 offers for rooftop solutions for you.
This looks awesome. Is this a 13 millimeter socket? Because I know K2 is a German manufacturer.
We are. So we abide to the metric system here. We are very European roots, and I'm happy to give you this clamp. The entire product development team in the U.S. and in Mexico worked diligently to create this. I'd also like to give a shout out to Dakota Dominguez, our marketing manager, who makes these live streams happen, and she makes these awesome packaging results for us. So that is a gift for you, Dale.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate it. This clamp looks really cool because this is a multi-clamp. So it's a mid and an end clamp.
Yes.
You can't maybe tell too much in the video, but if this is something you're interested in, this is the kind of stuff we need in the sustainable place. We don't want to be wasteful. We should be conscious of the parts, and they should be multi-purpose. So it's great to see K2 doing something. There's these little spikes on the bottoms. You may not be able to see it, but go to K2's website to check out this clamp, because these spikes allow for integrated grounding with the modules, right?
Absolutely, that's correct, Dale. So what we decided to do, and I can help you with that real quick, these end caps come off. They're not structural. They're just aesthetic, mostly to hide the hardware from the homeowner so they don't have to see the very large bolt that's built into the clamp. The cross clamp is designed to be both end and mid clamp. So Dale, that means that your crews, your installation team will only need one clamp on the job site. We have a very extensive amount of module travel built into the clamp. This will clamp down on 30 millimeter all the way up to 45 millimeter. And when you're removing a module, it won't come apart on you because it goes all the way up.
Right. And that's one thing that I think has been overlooked in the space is the mids and end clamps. As you look to service a solar system in the future, what I've seen a lot of the times is you get the bolt, it breaks off. They've been out there on the roof for 10, 12 years. And then it's like, well, where do I get this mid clamp? It's not made anymore. So to see that you're making a universal mid and end would allow you to maybe pull one from a point if it broke. I doubt it would. It looks really well built and looks to be much better, especially in the anodized black, because a lot of the ones that break tend to not have a special coating on them.
Okay.
So they kind of get a little rusty or something. I'm not 100% sure.
But you brought up the the serviceability aspect of this, and I wanted to actually tell you that when we were designing this, that is some of the feedback we got from a lot of installers and distributors. Everybody who has to basically handle the clamp, whether it's boots on the roof or whether it's distributors who have to dispatch the material out to the installers. One of the things we really built into this clamp was serviceability. This clamp, Dale, will actually work on legacy Everest K2 systems
Wow.
and everything that we're doing in the future for our systems. This will also interface with our Rail system. So that means that your install crews can be installing rail on tile with hooks. They can be installing railless on comp, one clamp, Dale.
That's phenomenal. I mean, reducing components helps simplify the installation. It makes it easier and it prevents mistakes from occurring, right? I've seen projects that other organizations had installed that they didn't put the proper clamps on there, and it was because they were trying to source different products. And this is a great solution. I'm glad you guys made it backwards compatible. That is so difficult to achieve when you've seen the industry evolve as long as K2 Systems has.
I appreciate that, Dale. Yeah, so we really took in a lot of feedback from all avenues. Everybody who has to handle the clamp, whether it's boots on the roof, whether it's distribution, whether it's the homeowner who has to see it on their roof.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that everybody had the same outcome, and the outcome was positive with K2. The other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention about the clamp is that you did mention that it had bonding pins on it. So actually, this clamp has 4 total bonding pins on it. So it has redundant bonding built into it everywhere. We tried to basically achieve, what we tried to achieve with the construction of this and the development of this was it was basically so simple and it couldn't be installed incorrectly.
Yeah, no, you definitely can't make, I mean, unless you're trying to install it upside down, but
Exactly. And I wanted to kind of ask you really quickly, like, how does the clamp feel? Like, does it feel like it's heavy duty, or what do you think?
it definitely feels like a sturdy product. It's definitely got some girth to it. I would definitely say it's a weighted product. A lot of the products I've seen in this space, they're kind of flimsy, and I've seen where they just kind of break for no reason, or they got all these like. This has good weight, 100%. It feels like a rock solid piece. I'm curious if it's one piece of aluminum, I'm assuming, or is it steel?
The fabricating process of how we do that is proprietary to us, but I will tell you that it is aluminum and stainless steel, and we have it go through a coating process that turns it all black.
Wow.
It also, if you look at the top, it has a custom K2 screw, or excuse me, bolt on the top.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit further on the size of the clamp. So you'll notice that it's probably a little bit larger than of some of the clamps that you've seen in the past.
Yeah. It's definitely holding down the module a lot more. That to me looks a lot more secure than many of the other types of clamps that I've seen in the space. You know, there's definitely, I would rather see the module have a good 2 inches of attachment than, maybe 1 inch.
Absolutely. So what we actually did is we oversized it. We found with our testing to make sure that the module is held down securely in high wind conditions that we wanted to make sure that the top of the clamp was oversized for that. What that allows us to do is it allows us to get a lot of heavy performance out of the product. This means that by having that top clamp oversized, it actually, if you go into the installation manuals of some of the manufacturers here, they do stipulate a certain size clamp must be applied to their frame of their module. This exceeds all of them.
Oh, so it helps ensure that it's always secure to the module then.
Yes, and if you actually crack open that manual for ABC, Solar, or whoever it might be, XYZ module, they do stipulate a certain size of clamp and a certain size of engagement. We made this clamp 50 millimeters in length, so it can exceed all of those requirements.
It would be nice to see if there was a way for us to reduce the number of clamps. I know there are some types of racking system and modules that allow them to kind of interconnect between each other.
Absolutely.
And then you have the end clamps. Is that anything that K2's been working on?
Right now, we are always looking towards the future, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Design and engineering is something that our team really focuses in on. We really like to capture a lot of voice of customer before we leap into a product.
Right.
So making sure that it doesn't negatively impact your install team or the distribution arm or the end user who is the person who purchased the solar. Do they like the way it looks? Does it look the way they want? So we really try to make sure those wants and needs are aligned when we develop a product. With
No.
that said, you did bring up that some of the newer companies are offering some kind of toolless clamp or some kind of wedge clamp. We're actually very interested in developing things like that. We have a broad board of designed products that we're working on. So just because you haven't seen it from us doesn't mean we aren't working on it.
No, I believe you guys got a lot going on in the research and development area. It's pretty clear with the development of this clamp, making it future compatible as well as backwards compatible is a big leap forward for the sustainable space, and you're reducing waste. I mean, that is something that's so easily overlooked, and I don't know why we overlook the manufacturing process and how sustainable we need to be from the point of manufacturing to the point on which it is attached to your roof.
Absolutely.
The more of these that you have that are universal, the better we all are.
I really appreciate you recognizing that. Thank you, Dale. I kind of wanted to get your vision of what era are we in the industry, because I've noticed that a lot of people are upgrading some of the solar that they already have. Would you be able to kind of elaborate on that and your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole industry has kind of evolved in the last 15 years altogether. I mean, when you really look at it in the residential space, and it's come full circle. We are now on the cusp of a home management system, and many of these older systems, the modules are great. They're working phenomenal, but they're lower wattage, and our needs have changed. We now have electric vehicles. And so you need to look at solutions that allow you to use that existing racking, remove those modules. So if if someone has a K2 system, it's great to see that, cool, now I can slap up new modules up on that roof without removing the racking, without creating new penetrations unnecessarily.
And using the new clamp.
Yes,
Yes.
that's got the integrated grounding into it, and has a better secure attachment to it. I mean, there's a lot of great benefits to what you guys have developed that's so tiny. I mean, and it really speaks to this future of the sustainable space and the home management future of energy, because now when you go solar, it's not just about going solar and getting rid of your utility bill. Now you're going solar because you're energy independent, because you are creating a self-sufficient home that is fully autonomous. You can control your lights, you can control your outlets, you can manage what's going in and out of your home. You can
Absolutely.
share all this with your neighbors with virtual power plants. We're not restricted to a single utility provider. We can share the infrastructure and create something really magical.
I completely agree with you, Dale. We are in the era of smart home technology. I'm not trying to gloat or brag or anything like that, but I'm able to open up my garage door for my neighbor to borrow a tool, when I'm away. I can do it remotely from my house. So we're starting to see like just a profound amount of technology developed in front of us. And we're really kind of in a very amazing era right now with the ability to have an EV, with the ability to have broadband service in your home, the ability to have a lot of remote technology at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're basically taking the electric vehicle and turning our homes into one.
Yeah.
That's kind of the best way to put it. The only difference between the electric vehicle and your home is the home can actually put solar panels on the roof with a great racking solution and generate that energy to store in your battery and ideally share it with your car.
I wanted to actually ask you, tell us a little bit more about Dale's Renewable World.
Well, Dale's Renewable World really came from wanting to educate people about the sustainable space. And I had worked for a long time with an installer because I wanted to learn more about the installation side of the industry, because there's so much that goes on that side of the space. But from that, I've kind of expanded into so much more in reference to understanding the evolution of the world, right? How are we going to get to a fully sustainable future? Because I believe in order for us to achieve space exploration, we need to first understand how to create and store energy sustainably on our own planet.
Here on Earth.
Yes. If we can't do that, we'll never make it to any planet, whether it's in this universe or another.
But one of the things that I enjoy most about the content that you do is that you make it very easy to understand things. And I wanted to kind of elaborate on that for anybody who's watching. If you're not in the solar industry, or if don't have any background on solar and you want to get involved into it, you can visit Dale's Renewable World. He's on all of the social media channels. Where are you at, Dale?
I'm on primarily YouTube. That's really where I post the most of my content. And then I post shorts on LinkedIn. I really like to stay networked with the professional industry. And then the YouTube channel, I try to promote and educate homeowners so you can make the switch to clean renewable energy and understand what you're buying. It's such an interesting space that doesn't follow a means of education. When you go and buy a car, you get a feel for it. You have someone talk about the features. Hey, this is the inline four. It's a 2.0 turbo. It's going to get 34 miles per gallon. It's got maybe a little hybrid battery in it or something, right? Those are all things that are important when you're making a decision. And of course, you get the price. Well, with the solar industry, it doesn't have that. And I found that a lot of people want to know what they're buying.
And what a time to be alive to be able to do that. The accessibility to your content, the ability to create content, develop information for people, make sure that they're educated about new technology that you've experienced firsthand.
Yeah.
It's a very awesome time to be able to witness this kind of stuff. And I can't thank you enough for all your contribution to that.
I appreciate K2 inviting me out here to have this interview. I'm really thankful for the opportunities I've been given in this space, because the renewable industry is a wonderful world to work in. And any of you that are looking to get into this industry, I strongly encourage you to reach out to your local installer. Whether you're in high school and you're not sure, you want to become an engineer, you want to become an electrician, you want to become a roofer, there's so many directions you can go in the renewable space. All you got to do is reach out to somebody.
Absolutely. And there's actually so much to do in our industry. Here at K2, we do racking and mounting, and we also offer design services and engineering. We have all those 4 lanes of our products and our services, but there is so much to be done. There's modules, there's batteries, there's the importance of wire management, being an electrician, being a roofer. Somebody is doing all of this work, and it's great to see it all happening, but it's great to also be a part of it.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of something like this. It's magical, because who would have thought 100 years ago, when we invented the light bulb, that we would be able to capture sunlight on our roof and convert that energy into a usable form to power all the lights in our home?
I agree. I agree. And with technology just expanding and expanding, especially with all of the vendors here who support this conference and all of the different products they're bringing, all different services they're bringing, it's an amazing thing to see. With that said, I wanted to kind of just expand a little bit further on what is your vision of the solar industry? What could we do differently, better? How could we open up more access to getting solar? What do you think would be what's going to happen in 2025 into 2030? What are your thoughts?
One of the things that I've been working on, and it really stemmed back way back when I first started the channel, I had visited a green tech that was opening. This was a big distributor. It was their first location, and they had some manufacturers come out to do an event like RE Plus, but it was smaller for the distribution.
Okay.
And I went to that event, and I was blown away by it to see these products. There was a battery there that, this was 10 years ago, right? 7 years ago. This was very expensive to try and get a battery on a home, let alone just go solar. So what I feel we can do moving forward, now that we've brought down the cost, now that we've learned the ins and outs of the industry, modules are more affordable, they're higher wattage.
Optimize the components.
Yeah, we need to optimize the components. We've simplified the installation, but I think we need to expand in reference to the means in which we use to buy solar.
Okay.
How do we navigate that space and build trust? Because that's been a problem in this space, is the trust with those businesses, right?
Okay.
A lot of organizations have sadly come and gone, and large and small, and that affects people's interest in purchasing and making the investment in a clean, sustainable future.
So the public gets apprehensive when they constantly see a hockey stick up with the company, and then it falls.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that we can create a better future if we create a platform per se, or an experience that is consumer focused, right? Is focused on the homeowner. I don't know a lot of businesses that understand home automation. I've gone to local I've gone to local shopping centers, and they don't really help you navigate that space to understand how can I make my home automated, right? And because if you make your home automated, it can be energy efficient at the same time.
That's right.
So these are things we want to expand, we want to explore, and I believe that what I've been working on outside of Dale's renewable world is something that I believe the industry really needs, and it's going to allow consumers and homeowners and contractors and manufacturers to get right in front of those people that it's important to and allow them to make a meaningful impact, because without that community involvement, without the cities making the switch to clean renewable energy, without the towns making the switch to clean renewable energy, we can't just rely on the state to do everything for us. We should be working collectively as a community to create microgrids and macro grids. We want the individual homes to be able to be networked together, and we need the technology to do it. And we have it, it's here. It's just a matter of us working together to achieve something beautiful.
I agree, Dale. You had mentioned earlier in our conversation about carports, and I kind of got a little bit inspired by that. I wanted to ask you, I've been in the racking space since 2010, and I know that roof space is kind of a luxury when it comes to your home. Not every home has, a sprawling, 2,500 square feet of open roof space. I wanted to kind of unpack the conversation about, have you experienced anybody using maybe like a pergola or like an outdoor awning as their solar array?
It does get rather difficult because of the structural engineering. A lot of people look at the weight of a solar system to be the problem, but it's actually uplift that you have to be concerned about.
Correct.
So in many cases, you might have to add additional support to those, patios per se, or those pergolas, if it's not prefabricated.
Got it.
Now, I've worked on ground mounts before, and it's rather encumbersome to build a ground mount compared to some other things.
Essentially, with a ground mount, you're building a giant sail out there. So you're trying to get maximum density of your modules out there, but at the same time, the higher your incline goes, the more space there is for air to just take it away.
And then it blows away. I mean, usually when you do a good ground mount, the footings between those concrete spacings like less than 6 feet. And it's like, why do we need so much? You would think the concrete's heavy enough to hold it with the weight of the modules and the steel racking, but it really could just whoop, and there it goes. Well, that was a solar. I've seen reels of trampolines just flying through the air in Texas.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, it's like, the last thing I want to see is a ground mount flying through the air. That sounds a bit scary.
I agree, but like I said, when in most neighborhoods, roof space is a luxury. You and I, I'm sure we both experienced where we drive past a house and we see the solar on the rooftop and we're like, wow, they really put a solar panel everywhere on that roof.
Yeah, I mean, you need it. I mean, especially with us electrifying our homes. There's so much that's being electrified that we need more and more energy to be generated on the roof, and we have limitations in how we can install those modules. We have to take into account serviceability and fire safety setbacks. I mean, those are important things that we need. I know in many countries that there is no setback requirements, but then I look at it, even though it's maybe not a safety issue, maybe it's a serviceable issue. Now it's harder to service that module that's in the middle of the array because I have to pull panels from the ladder to be able to get to it.
Absolutely.
So, there are some pros to what codes we've adopted in our country, and it's really important that we continue to reevaluate these codes because we can do better and still be safe and serviceable.
Absolutely. Those building codes, for everybody listening, those building codes are there for a reason. So the reason that we have those setbacks, the reason that we have those requirements of how many, how far we can span a rail, how many roof attachments are required into the roof, staggering the roof attachments, all of that is built in there for a reason. It's for the sustainability of the actual solar. So I'm glad that Dale actually brought that up.
Yeah.
With that said,
I mean, you were talking about the carports, and we didn't get to talk about that. I didn't bring that up, but I feel carports that are currently out there, there's some organizations that have made some large investments on carports.
Yeah.
I would love to see them repurposed to have DC chargers on them.
Absolutely. I I was going to actually want to expand that conversation a little bit because you had brought up storage and batteries. There's kind of two different camps of how batteries are utilized. There's DC coupled and AC coupled.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of maybe ask you, what is your favorite and why?
I personally prefer DC coupled architecture. It's just makes sense. It's simple as long as you know what you're doing, of course, and it's really safe at the end of the day when you do it right.
Okay.
The DC coupled architecture is important because of the efficiency of the equipment. You're going from the DC modules to the DC batteries. Now, things that I've been trying to do some research on to understand is there a difference in a low voltage DC battery that's DC coupled or a high voltage battery that's DC coupled? From what I found is that low voltage batteries is like the same as an AC coupled battery because it's not matching the voltage of the array.
Okay.
So a lot of people overlook that, and when I've brought it up, it tends to get overlooked, and they go, wow, no, I didn't think about that. Maybe, yeah, using a 48-volt battery with a 600-volt solar array, maybe we are losing energy, and you tend to find in most of the publishings that their round-trip efficiency is lower or similar to an AC coupled battery. So I think we need to evaluate high voltage batteries with low voltage batteries and kind of weigh out the pros and cons to them. Is a low voltage battery safer than a high voltage battery? I can't answer that because I don't have enough data to say whether or not it is.
Well, it sounds like you're leaning more into the DC coupled side,
Yeah.
which honestly, in my particular opinion, I would say just makes a little bit more sense to me as well. So I've seen both different sides. I understand, half understand what they do because it is very complex for anybody who's watching this.
Yeah.
But if you do have questions about that, connect with Dale. He does have solutions and content on his experience with these type of products and the outcome that you're going to have.
Right. And we use some great software when we're designing proposals because obviously I work with other contractors in the industry because I want to help people in as many states as I can in the United States because that's where I'm based. Go solar, and there's some great solutions out there that are public for you to do your own calculations to determine whether or not it's viable for you to make the switch to clean renewable energy.
Excellent, Dale. Thank you for elaborating on that. What would you mind letting us know which tools you kind of gravitate to when it comes to designing, or maybe some resources that you like to use? I remember there was a free tool with Google called Project Sunroof. I don't remember using that recently, but is that still around, or what do you lean into when you want to design an array?
I primarily use Open Solar, and I found that Open Solar is a great user accessible platform. It has Google API, their solar API integrated into it. It was some of the algorithms that they're using were developed in partnership with the Department of Energy and the National Renewable Energy of Laboratory, the NREL.
Yep.
So the DOE, NREL worked with Open Solar to create these algorithms to ensure that when they're estimating the solar production, which they're also working with near maps, so that way you get 3D models of the home. When you're laying the modules out there, they have all the specs in there. They know the voltage. You can add an optimizer. It adjusts the efficiency. You add the battery or the inverter, it adjusts it. You can adjust the parameters, but what's really cool behind the scenes, they have this little section when you're designing a system, and it shows you the potential sun access that you have, the total kilowatt hours of your rooftop, which many people would be surprised that it's over 200,000 kilowatt hours of energy, and we're barely capturing 20% of that.
And that information, and not only the utilization of the tool, is free. So anybody who's
Yes.
watching, if you are interested in using those kind of tools, you can get started. There's no kind of sign up for those tools. Even the one that you mentioned earlier, which was NREL PV Watts, that tool is free. So your tax dollars went to the development of that, so you can use it. So if you are interested in solar, you can go to either of those two tools, Open Solar or PV Watts, so you can have a better understanding of what's available in your area. Thank you for bringing that up, Dale. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you asked because a lot of people overlook the solar design aspect, and that's where a lot of frustration builds because a lot of people maybe get a quote and it's not using any true calculations. It's just, hey, here's a number, it's going to generate 17,000 kilowatt hours. And then a year goes by, it generated 12. Well, how are you off by 5,000 kilowatt hours? If you knew to use these tools to cross-reference the proposal you had, the better prepared you are to go, hey, how did you guys get to 17,000 kilowatt hours?
Amazing. I also wanted to let everybody know who's live on the stream. We also do have our own bill of materials generator with engineering on the background as well, and it is called K2 Quote. We have two design tools technically. One is K2 Base, which is our it's our map generator, where you can actually design an array on an existing structure with Google Maps, or you can go to K2 Quote, which is very simplified. It's just a grid format, and you're able to select roof attachments, draw your array very quickly. You'll be done in less than 2 minutes.
I mean, open solar's that fast, you know, it really.
No, and it's what a time to, and also the tools with K2 are all free as well. So it is a great time to be in the industry. You have resources available to you to get started. Dale provides a ton of content on not only installation aspect, but a lot of the outcomes for the end user as well.
Yeah, because I care about the end user. I care about our planet. I care about the future generation. And so, you know, I put a lot of attention into what I design and what I offer my customers, right? And I'm glad to see that K2 Systems has a solution for people to go and inquire and build their own system from there. And hopefully you also have the ability to help pair them up with a local installer, because that tends to be the harder part. Like, cool, I want to go solar, but I'm in Montana. Is there anybody that can help me install it?
Yes, it's definitely something that we should build up, is access to having reliable contractors, people with experience, and actually dispatch somebody out to your residence to help you out getting solar on your rooftop. I think that is another need that's necessary in our industry, Dale.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel there's a lot of things to still be said about the industry and in its future, but I know as we continue to electrify our infrastructure and electrify our means of transportation, that solar and storage is going to become more and more relevant. And it's going to rapidly occur, especially with the adoption of AI in many of the softwares that we're seeing come to market.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to make sure that you guys all have a chance to meet with Dale Rolph, Dale's Renewable World. We're here at Anaheim Convention Center with RE Plus 2024. If you're here at the convention, come to the K2 booth and definitely get engaged with Dale. Talk to him about anything. The man has a wealth of knowledge, and we look forward to seeing more of you in the future. Dale, thank you so much for stopping by our booth and for your time today. I hope you enjoy the cross-clamp gift.
I think this is awesome.
And we look forward to working with you much more in the future. Everybody out there, Dale, do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Well, you can visit me at reinnovations.org, and I'm here to help you if you don't just want to learn about solar, but also make the switch to clean renewable energy. I'm here to help you. Just visit us online at reinnovations.org.
Absolutely.
Thank
Dale,
you so much.
thank you for your time. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I look forward to
appreciate
working with you much more, buddy.
I do.
All right. To all of you out there,
Have a good
have
one.
a great day. Have a